What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of The Throw-In here. It is Justin here for another 2 hours on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. And we got a really, really big day ahead of you guys today. Tonight is the NFL Draft here. And boy, you know, who's going to get picked number one? We're going to talk about that, give you our thoughts and our opinions as the program begins. Just getting all my paperwork set up. We got a busy program. Let me just find where everything's at. So that's all my paperwork. All right, let's get down to it. Today we should be excited. You know why we should be excited? Because the Cincinnati Reds had swept their first team of the 2023 season. That is correct. The Cincinnati Reds went on and beat the Texas Rangers last night. Final score 5-3. And you know, we mentioned about how big this was going to be, and it's a big series. This is wrapping up 20 games throughout the course of the early on in the season. We're talking 20 games that the Reds had to play in the month of April consecutively, and they didn't do quite well. Well, they finished off on a strong suit, and now they get a well-deserved day off here. And it started back at the beginning of April when they were heading on their first road trip to Philadelphia. They were supposed to face the Phillies on the road on a Thursday, have Friday off, and then begin a 19 consecutive game streak. And it was rained out. We got a Wednesday and a Thursday rained out, so they started playing on Friday. All right, 20 consecutive games the Phillies and the Cincinnati Reds had to play. And what ended up happening? What ended up happening was we had to figure out, or we had to crawl and battle our way through every little thing that was given to us. I'm talking about our bullpen had to figure things out. Our rotation had to figure things out on our offense. Well, kicking off this 20-game series, our offense was looking pretty good, and our rotation looked pretty solid. The only problem that we had in the first going was the bullpen, which struggled about halfway through. We couldn't get swing of things with Philadelphia. We went 1 for 3. Matter of fact, I have it right here. We ended up we went 1 out of 3 against Philadelphia. We headed over to Atlanta, which we got swept, but all by very close battling games. We head back home and we split the series and took 2 of 4, including a Saturday 13-0 shutout win that we had back in the first homestands on this trip. And then we hosted the Braves, where we took 1 of 3, which I don't think that was a bad, series, even though we didn't win the series, because we knew how good Tampa Bay was. And then we got swept by the Pirates, which was devastating. But we come back and we finish things off strong at home at Great American Ballpark against the Texas Rangers. Now, I know these numbers ain't going to jump out at you, okay? They finished in this 20-game span. The Reds went 7 for 13, a 4-6 record at home, and a 1-9 record on the road. The road does bother me because I feel, a winning ball club should be able to win or play 500 baseball on the road. The home game, 6-4, I think that's fantastic. See, the rule of thumb for winning bowl clubs are you play above 500 at home and you're expected to play 500 on the road. And it was a tough 20 game stretch. We didn't have, our bullpen wasn't the greatest. And I think if anything, and to anyone in that case, you had to tip your cap off to the bullpen, which have been able to find their rhythm the last few games, and they've played extremely well. Here's some numbers over the last 20 games that I think we should pay attention to. Now, these aren't numbers to go brag about because, let's face it, the Reds had a slumpish back end of this 20-game stretch that when the bullpen, was able to rally up, our hitting offense wasn't getting it going. Cincinnati over the last 20 games scored 82 runs compared to their opponent's 99 runs. That is a 17-run differential. Cincinnati put up 151 hits, while the other team put up 190 hits. And as far as error rise, I see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 errors. So 20 games, 6 errors, not terrible. But I think what can erase everything over the last 20 games. Okay, they come into a bye today, and they're coming into today 10-15. And you're basically 5 games out of 500. And I'm not worried about the standings in the NL Central. I'm worried more about let's play 500 baseball, because that's what's going to be the key to this year's success, is trying to at least play 500 baseball. For a 20 consecutive game series, 7-13 is 6 games below 500. Now, here's what we learned. We learned that we need help on the road, of course, but we just need confidence on the road. Going 1-9 so far in the month of April on the road. Now, the Cincinnati Reds are going to finish off the month of April in California. They're going to be in Oakland. And so we get to talk about the Oakland A's, which I think having a 3-game sweep over the Texas Rangers, which I think was a great way to end a 20 consecutive game stretch. You get the day off, you fly out to California. And right now, those Oakland A's are not playing the best of their baseball as of late. As a matter of fact, a lot of the people will compare the Oakland A's to the 2022 Cincinnati Reds. And if we know anything about the Cincinnati Reds in 2022, we should be able to go in to this series in Oakland and take care of business and finish this, and have a 3-game weekend out there in California, possibly another sweep. I'm calling another sweep. Now, I will settle for a 2-1, 2 out of 3, but if you don't go in there and take care of business in Oakland, you have another 3 games on the road in San Diego, down south in California, in San Diego, to begin the month of May. And with Fernando Tatis coming back, it's going to be an exciting series. But I want to give this ball club the best of a chance to have some sort of confidence going into the San Diego series before you come back home next weekend. And so for a moment, I think we should sit here and have the honor, the privilege, the ability to celebrate a little bit, because although we for one, we survived. We didn't tank the 20 consecutive games. And it was tough. I'd be, lying to you if I didn't say if it was a tough pill to swallow, because some of these games that we were sitting here were just excruciating to watch. I mean, we got shut out. It was the end of the Tampa Bay series last week where we got shut out 10-0 in game 2, 8-0 in game 3, and then we finally pick up a couple runs in game 1 of the Pirates series, but not enough to get the series done. So, and then there was also some exciting things. I mean, 13-0 against the Phillies, and then we beat them in game 1 of the 4-game series. And, we had some nice close games against Atlanta. We kept it close against Pittsburgh all 4 games, although they were able to pull away with the victory. And then it was the nice way of winning these 3 games against the Rangers, where everything just worked for the Reds. And game 2 back on Tuesday, we definitely should not have won. 7-6. Don't forget the walk-off win on Monday. 6 runs in the 8th on Tuesday. And then last night, Nick Senzel. And this is where it kind of got, great. We're going to blow it, right? Gidball gets a couple men on. They go to Sims. He comes around, he ends up blowing the save. And expectively, to be honest, because we, with 2 on and nobody out, how do you come back from that, to be honest? And I think, it was a little high expected. But then it's Nick Senzel with a runner on with nobody out in the bottom of the 9th inning, and we get to Bruce Bochy. And Bruce Bochy is future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest managers I've ever lived and watched. Got a chance to watch him, growing up in San Diego, and then he moves over to San Francisco and has a couple of World Series wins, retires a couple of years ago, and back before the Padres signed Bob Melvin out of Oakland to be their new skipper, we really thought Bruce Bochy could have come back to be the manager of the Padres. Well, now we see him as the manager of the Texas Rangers, and the Rangers aren't a bad team still. They're still well over a 500, and I believe they're still in first place as of today. I haven't checked the scores yet, but exciting. Let's celebrate a little bit and have some fun. Well, hey, we're going to have a lot of fun on this program today because we're just getting underway. We got a lot of NFL draft to talk about. I'm talking about giving you our mock draft picks. Now, listen, you could take a look at the NFL draft here, and I want to get you the right information where it's at. I have it here somewhere. Somewhere in my paperwork. Well, the NFL draft is tonight. It's available on ESPN and the NFL Network. That's going to get kicked on the way at 8 p.m., and they're out there in Kansas, and we have a lot of talk about who's getting drafted number 1. Will it be Bryce Young? And who is my top 10? Who's my first 10 picks of the NFL draft? What will happen? We also want to take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, and the Cincinnati Bengals. And, man, it's a big day for the Bengals. And I tell you, it's a big day for Cincinnati because we need to understand the direction. I think there's a couple of things that the Cincinnati Bengals have to address in this draft. And it's more so not just filling in the voids and what we need, but it's also doing it in a way to continuously convince Joe Burrow and saying, hey, we want you here for a long time. We will like to lock you up for a couple years. And this is how we're going to do it through the draft. So it's kind of a bit of a sticky situation, but I think that the Bengals are in good position because I think there's a solid 6-7 guys out there that if they don't, we obviously, if some guy gets picked up early on in the first round, then we could fall into plan B and plan C. But I'll share with you who I like and where I think we really need to focus on, especially after this offseason has really went underway, so forth. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We still want to talk about the WWE Draft, which is tomorrow, by the way. So a lot of draft conversations lingering around. We're excited to talk about that. And man, NXT really caught me by surprise. We didn't talk about NXT spring break-in back on Tuesday, and I want to go ahead and bring that up today, talk a little bit about that, and what does that have effect on this upcoming WWE draft, as this is supposed to be, according to Paul Levesque, a game changer. So we'll give you coverage of all that, get you to look at the NBA and the NHL playoffs, as well as the ECHL update playoffs. So a lot to get around, a lot to get to. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the throw-in here. If you guys are watching us on Facebook, hit that like, share, and subscribe. People over there on Facebook and Twitter, be sure to like this program. Share with a friend. Let them know we're live right now for the next 2 hours, taking you guys up until 3 p.m. Here on the program. And then head on over to our YouTube page to leave us a comment and give us your thoughts. I want to hear from you guys. Who's getting topped in the top draft, and where are these players going to go? If you guys are listening to us on audio platforms, whether that is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, so forth, thank you. We welcome you. Without you guys, none of this is possible. All right, we're just getting underway, taking our first time out on the program. We'll be right back and talk some more sports. You guys are listening to The Throw-In right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
This will be a tough day for Graham Ashcraft. His grandmother passed away in Texas. Graham decided to stay and pitch today. That's what Grandma would have wanted him to do.
So a single, a hit batter, and a walk. Great start to the second inning. The Rangers have the bases loaded.
Bases loaded. Payoff. Grounded right side. Ashcraft has to cover. Shovel from Steer. He hit the bag and they got it.
And he just does get to the bag for the out, and the inning is over.
So one gone, and now Henry Ramos. One out, the pitch to Ramos. He swings, sends a high fly ball left center field. Jankowski on the run again. And Jankowski misses it. Stevenson breaks. Windmill on at third. He rounds and roars home. Over to third. Ramos head first slide. Safe. Stevenson scores a triple for Ramos and a 1-0 Reds lead.
Now Kevin Newman bats. The Rangers have the infield in.
Grounded, picked by Young, throw to the plate, they need a tag, ball free, Ramos scores, Newman's on, and it's 2-0. That was a gamble of a throw.
It was a low throw. Jonah Heim tried to scoop it.
Simeon stops at second, so the Rangers get their second hit. So runners at first and second.
All right, so now low. And he shoots one into left. That stays fair. It's a base hit. Simeon is in. Tavares steaming into third, but they'll stop him on the double by low. It's 2-1. Tremendous opportunity now with Adolis Garcia coming up. Here's a 3-2 in the air, right field. Ramos going back. He has room to make the catch and does. But Tavares able to tag. He'll score without a throw.
The Reds have him at the corners with one out for TJ Friedel.
1-1. Left field. Grossman the glove. Senzel tags. Throw to the plate. Senzel is in. Lead 3-2.
And did he get him? Yes, he did. Steer couldn't stop himself, and that is strikeout number 1,000 for John Gray, and it gets him out of the inning.
Season high 100 pitches for Ashcraft.
We'd love to see him get through 6. The pitch. Miller, weak tapper, back to the mound. Ashcraft has it, and he will run and tag out Miller on his way to the bag for the final out. So he does just that. Graham Ashcraft gets through 6, allows just the 2 runs.
Lucas Sims will get the call.
Miller has faced him before, 1 for 3 against him with a home run. The 2-1. Man, that ball slugged high in the air center field, should be deep enough. He'll score without a throw, and the sac fly by Miller has tied the game in the 9th inning.
And the Reds have their leadoff man on in scoring position. And Nick Senzel has looked pretty good at the plate over the last couple of ball games. And Senzel launches one high and deep to left field. Back goes Thompson, looks up. It is gone! The homerless drought is over on a walk-off 2-run home run from Nick Senzel, and the Reds walk off with a sweep over the Rangers.
The Reds' longest power drought in 3 decades concludes in the most dramatic of fashions.
Alrighty.
Can of a video.
Let's get back to the swing. Well, the Reds went on and not only picked up a victory in walk-off fashion, but the Cincinnati Reds swept the Texas Rangers with the final score 3-5, and the Reds put up 7 hits, or compared to the Rangers 5 hits in yesterday's ball game. And let's just take a moment, breathe in and breathe out, because this is the third is a 3-game winning streak for one. And it really feels good, as I mentioned to begin the program, making sure that the Reds, it was, I think, when we fell short back in at Monday, there was kind of that little bit of energy that was taken away from us, in the sense that the Cincinnati Reds couldn't get their offensive going. And it was becoming an issue, because I was not sitting here taking the Texas Rangers lightly. The Rangers are a first place team in the AL West, and you're talking about a team that has to deal with the Seattle Mariners, the Houston Astros, and the Los Angeles Angels. And you're like, well, we have to take care of business. And when you drop 4 and you end up dropping 2 more prior to that against Tampa Bay, you come into the series, all right, we're on a 6-game losing streak. Let's kind of snap that out. And, we're on the final stretch, and I understand how people could get winded and exhausted, and it could really deteriorate the motivation in the clubhouse, especially when you're not winning. But the Reds this series found something going. And, I've been very confident in the last couple of games, the last week or two, about the Reds bullpen. I've been really good about, surprisingly, I'm really confident about the 5 guys we throw out there each and every night in the rotation. But it was the offense that I was a little bit worried about. And last night, yesterday's ball game, Nick Senzel, 2 for 4, 2 runs, 2 RBIs batted in with a walk-off home run, bottom of the 9th inning. Give not only a walk-off win, but you feel good now. With the day being off today, you're out in California, you probably get a chance to sleep in and catch up on your sleep, and then be able to maybe head out to the ballpark, take a couple of BPs, and then maybe go, see some scenery before you got to take on the Oakland A's. And I'm not going to go see here and claim that the Athletics are a team that you could take lightly, because with the Reds, you can't take any team lightly, to be honest. But I feel confident in the position that the A's are in right now, that these Reds could go in there and take care of business, and that's what we need. Imagine after a 3-game series, you head over to, Oakland and take at least 2 out of 3. I would just like to say, all right, let's go take 3 of 3 and call it the weekend. And then, you build the confidence going down south to San Diego, taking on the Padres. But it was a nice win. And it was something interesting, because I didn't know about this until literally just days of, or until to this morning. Condolences and everything goes out to Graham Ashcraft and his family, as apparently he loses his mother back on Monday, and he still pitches on Wednesday. And what grandmother would have wanted, and I'm like, tip my cap off to you. So I think it worked all well through and through, and a nice little victory there. As of yesterday, the San Diego Padres beat the Chicago Cubs 5-3. The Detroit Tigers, Milwaukee Brewers win 6-2 yesterday. Pittsburgh Pirates beat the Dodgers 8-1, and then the St. Louis Cardinals drop against the San Francisco Giants. What I like about this is that now you provided yourself, because the Giants and the Cardinals play today. So here's what's on the radar for today. The Padres and Cubs at 2:20. You got the Dodgers and the Pirates right now in the midst of their game, as the Pirates out front 3-2. All runs were scored back in the first inning. And then later on today at 3:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you have the St. Louis Cardinals wrapping up a 3-game series against San Francisco. What I like about how things turned out, it's battling that first step at a time. And what I like is that we are now divided by a game. That even if St. Louis beats the Giants today, we will still hang in above the Cardinals heading into the weekend, from my understanding. We sit here about 7 games back of Pittsburgh, who holds the first place 17-8 record. And then there are a game above Milwaukee. Chicago is 3 games back, and then we're 7 games back. So there is a good 4-game gap difference. But I know this is kind of really early to talk about, in the sense, but I'm like, listen, it's staying in the race as long as possible. I could get down to August and September and be like, all right, the Reds are done, but they've fought that long. And what I really liked about this last series is that the Redlegs fought. Did they not? They fight in every game. I mentioned, I've been paying attention to these games, and if you've been paying attention to these games as well, and you see, if you're just seeing win and loss record on it, you're not really paying attention to these games. They're fighting at every time. The last series against Pittsburgh here, where they lost 3-4, 2-4, 1-2, they were fighting up into the last out. Trust me. But hey, the rule of thumb goes to show that you can't sit here and wait until the very, the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning when you get into the bullpen to do any magic. So that is the Padres. Oh, that is not the Padres. Sorry. That is the Redlegs roster here. Or everything that they've done. So 20 consecutive game stretch has now come to an end. They get the day off. They will head to Oakland. I think they're already in Oakland. And then they will go ahead and enjoy today off and get ready for 3 games against Oakland, 3 games against San Diego. Thursday off to come back home. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they'll host the White Sox for the first weekend of May. So there you have it. FC Cincinnati goes on and beats Louisville yesterday in the U.S. Open Cup tournament, 1-0. We'll give you more information about that, as well as the ECHL Kelly Cup Playoffs and NBA and NHL playoffs coming up next. We're just getting through the program here. Got a lot to talk about when it comes down to the drafts, both NHL and WWE. That is still to come here. You guys are listening to The Front One on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Like they don't give a damn, girl. And my God, she owns it. So many heartbreaks, goes back to 2014, and I think that she knows it. And if you've seen her, I know that you would believe it, 'cause I know that you'd want her to. Yeah, I do. Everyone's taking their shot, but missing out on the cut. I think she knows that. She drives them crazy when she's looking like that. The way she's moving makes her want it so bad. It's the attention that we wish that we had.
Alrighty, welcome on back here to the program. We're throwing here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. 138 here. We're going to do some TLC, some PR reads, just get this all through out of the road. Want to give a big shout out to StreamYard Studios, where you can create podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct your interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. Music on the program is given to you thanks to Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. All right, let's go ahead and do a little bit more TLC. We got some upcoming festivals headed our way in Cincinnati. We'd like to extend the offer and invite you guys out there, not just to check out the food, drinks, and all the above. We want you to be able to enjoy and volunteer. We need you volunteering, thanks to Enlighten Studios. It's not just a incorporation, it's a family. Enlighten Studios offers a lot more than what to give. They help other people out, surrounding them to grow into their own. And I know it through first class. And, you know, if you are trying to grow yourself, I recommend checking out Enlighten Studios. And I did a whole bunch of interviews several weeks ago, early half in this year, worked with Terry, still working with him. And, you know, he had a theater production of Love's Not Enough, which is hoping to kick out on the road. He also produced a film called Crime Fighters by using the Cincinnati's UC's, what's it called? Their film, arts and film in the school. They came out and got exposure that way. And it's all about giving back, right? Give back to the community, you know, build friendships, build relationships. And they volunteer at these Cincinnati festivals. And through this year, there are 3 festivals heading down into the Newport on the Levee this summer, starting in June. And each and every year, they take their team and they volunteer, and they go around and they try to recruit people. And they want to recruit you to volunteer at this year's festivals. 3 festivals going on. It's going to all be held at the Newport on the Levee down there, just down on the bottom of the hill where the Newport Aquarium is. They got live music, wonderful food, and wonderful drinks. And we're not just inviting you out there to come join and celebrate. We're also inviting you to volunteer with us at these festivals, work some booths, help operate, and show everybody just how amazing the wonderful, great Queen City of Cincinnati really is all about, right? And so we have the Italian Festival coming your way to kick things off June 8th through June 11th, followed by the Taco Festival from June 23rd to the 25th, and then the Celtic Festival July 14th through the 16th. Now, if you're interested in signing up, okay, there are perks. Terry has done a wonderful job as making sure that you guys get something out of it. And by signing up, you get to keep your tips. And I know I would do it because you know, hey, get a chance to not only enjoy the live music, not only enjoy the foods and the drinks that they supply at these festivals, but interact with the crowd, get to know the people. And you know, and build relationships, but get a chance to bring home some money from being there, right? I mean, and you can sign up today at enlightenstudios.cincy@gmail.com. If you guys want to reach out to me personally, you guys could head on over to the TNC Sports Talk Facebook page and DM me, and I'll definitely pass on the message. So we want to recruit you, and by doing that, sign on up by emailing enlightenstudios.cincy@gmail.com for more information. So excited to be a part of Enlighten Studios and hope you guys get out there today. All right. So Cincinnati has more than just the Bengals and the Reds. And we'll talk a lot about the Bengals here in a moment because today is the NFL Draft. live 8 p.m. Eastern in Kansas City, Missouri. And we'll definitely talk a lot about the NFL draft here to come. But we got other sports going around town. FC Cincinnati played last night against Louisville, picked up a victory 1-0 in the U.S. Open Cup tournament. They'll continue regular season gameplay on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. At the Gillette Stadium in New England, taking on New England on this Saturday. Want to go check out their game? Take a little road trip out there. Right now, the Eastern Conference looks as New England. This is going to be a really good matchup because New England's in first place, 6-1-2, exactly neck to neck and tied with Cincinnati in the Eastern Conference. And then you have Atlanta with 18 points. All right, 5-1-3. So definitely, if you're, you're interested in a little bit of soccer, go. I'm sure this game was going to be on TV. Let's support the FC Cincinnati on their victory, hopefully a victory on Saturday. The Cincinnati Cyclones, on the other hand, they're up 2-1 against the Fort Wayne Komets in the ECHL playoffs. Now they play in the, in the Central Division. And basically how these brackets go, you got a North Division, South Division, Central, and then Mountain Division. And there's 4 teams from each division contending for Kelly Cup playoffs. So in the Central Division, Cincinnati took game 1 and 2. Got shut out back on Tuesday against Fort Wayne on the road, 3-0. And they will be playing game 4 tomorrow night at 8:05 Eastern Standard Time. The Toledo Walleyes are up 3-0 against the Indy Fuels, who will play tonight at 7 p.m. Puck drops at 7 p.m. And so the winner of Indy and Toledo, which have been really good games throughout the course of the season with the Cincinnati Cyclones, will be facing the winner of the Komets and the Cyclones. Now, I hope that, it's a best of 7 series, so I hope that Cincinnati could take care of business. They play Saturday and then they play Sunday before coming back home for, I believe it's a Tuesday and Wednesday matchup. I'll have to confirm later on over the weekend, but let's support these Cincinnati Cyclones in getting past the first round of the ECHL playoffs. Now we got looking around other divisions in the ECHL Kelly Cup playoffs. In the North Division, Newfoundland Growlers are leading the Thunders 2-1 as they look to play tonight at 7 p.m. Now that's basically an hour ahead of our time. We have the Reading Royals heading into game 6. I believe they will play on Saturday. They don't play today or tomorrow. I believe this game is a 3-2. Let me double check. 1-2. Yeah, 3-2. The Royals are leading the Maine Mariners. In the South Division, South Carolina are down 2-1 against Florida Everblades. Jacksonville Icemen are up 2-1 against Greenville Swamp Rabbits. And in the Mountain Division, Idaho Steelheads are down 1-2 against Utah Grizzlies heading into game 4. Ellen Americans are up 2-1 against Kansas City Mavericks. And tonight's ECHL hockey games, Toledo Walleyes and Indy Fuels, as Toledo goes into today's game, 3-0. The puck drops at 7 o'clock. They can wrap up the series sweep with a win for Toledo Walleyes tonight, followed by the Thunder and Growlers. Growlers lead 2-1 at 7 p.m. Puck drops as well. Tomorrow night, we have a handful of games. South Carolina Stingrays and Florida Everblades. Puck drops at 7:30 Eastern time for them. At 7:05, Jacksonville Icemen taking on the Swamp Rabbits. Puck drops at 7:05 on Eastern Standard Time. 7:10 Mountain Time, Idaho Steelheads take on Utah Grizzlies. Kansas City Mavericks will take on the Americans at 7:05 Central Time. And then at 8:05 is the Cyclones and the Comets. Oh, that's quite a bit confusing there, but that is your ECHL Kelly Cup Playoff standings. All right, the NBA is continuing with playoff runs today. Yesterday, the New York Knicks wrapped up a series victory against the Cleveland Cavaliers, winning 106-95. They beat the Cavaliers 4-1. Miami Heat also picked up a series victory against the Milwaukee Bucks, knocking out the number 1 seed? Whoa. Against the Bucks, they won 128-126. They beat the Bucks 4-1. Los Angeles Lakers dropped to the Memphis Grizzlies last night, 116-99. And the series advances to 3-2 in favor of the Lakers. I will say LA, Los Angeles, do not give the Grizzlies a chance to come back in Game 6. You got to take care of business in Game 6. NHL playoffs. Last night, the Florida Panthers kept themselves alive after beating Boston Bruins 4-3. They are still down in the series 2-3, but they keep themselves alive to play another day. And then also Seattle Krakens advanced to 3-2 over Colorado Avalanche after beating them 3-2 last night. Where is today's game? All my paperwork all over the place. All right. It's somewhere around here. Nope, not there. Wow. Who would have thought I've been able to lose all my paperwork here for... There we go. Nope. There we go. Finally found my paperwork. Today's games here, starting off with the NBA. We got one game going on. Tip-off is at 8:30 between the Boston Celtics and Atlanta Hawks, where Boston leads 3-2 in the series. NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. First game, puck drops at 7 o'clock between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto's looking to wrap things up as a lead 3-1. At 7:30, we'll have the New York Rangers taking on the New Jersey Devils as the series are tied 2-2. And then last game of the night between Winnipeg Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights, as Vegas gets a chance to take care of business against Winnipeg if they pick up, as they currently have a 3-1 lead in the playoff series. I'm kind of crossing my fingers that Vegas kind of gets a chance to eliminate Winnipeg Jets here. And the reason by that is because I have a bad taste in my mouth. But we'll see about all that fun, good stuff. All right, hey, the NFL draft is here, and there's a lot to talk about. And we're just going to start breaking the ice here. I always get worried putting these things together because I feel like there's only so much to talk about until you figure out, all right, what is there to talk about? And there's two dynamics that we're looking into when it comes down to this NFL draft this year. One, we have to look at what the Bengals are doing, and we'll talk about that here in hour number 2. But number 2 is that we have a handful of Bearcats. And last year, they made history in the 2022 NFL draft with 5 players going in the top 100 picks across the 3 days. And I guess if you are the Bearcats, you're hoping that we can I don't know if we're going to get the same people, but there's a couple, we're hoping to get a couple of players going in the draft over the weekend. Since 2001, at least one Bearcat has been picked 18 of the 22 drafts, which I think is remarkable. So we need to understand a few things heading into this draft. And this is what we're going to talk about in our number 2 quite heavily. And this is going to all be related to the WWE Draft, which is tomorrow. One thing that, I have the first round picks, and tonight is going to be the first round picks only. So I have the quarterback list. I only have the top 5 quarterbacks rankings. Bryce Young is coming in at number 2. We have C.J. Stroud coming in at number 4, ranked. Anthony Richardson at number 11, ranked out of Florida. Will Levis and number 50 is number 18, and number 55 is Hendon Hooker. Now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that one of the draft picks have been one of the mock drafts even has the Hendon Hooker coming in the first round. Now, I don't know how this first round is going to go down. I know in the top 10, I have my top 10 predictions. But this first round draft, this year's draft is going to be quite interesting. One thing that we have to understand when we're bringing this all in a circle for the draft tonight is that the way teams draft are going to be how they figure out their team for the 2023 season. And what I mean by that is that, for example, Carolina is number 1. And they have needs here as quarterback, cornerback, edge, wide receiver. And so one of the big questions they're going to leave out is Carolina going with a quarterback? And almost everyone's projecting Bryce Young at number 1. But we don't have a huge quarterback class. And so when you think about ideas and theories of what could potentially happen, Houston at number 2, are they going to go with C.J. Stroud or Will Levis, or they even may pick up an edge, a defensive edge player? Arizona at number 3, Indianapolis at number 4, and we'll get down into this. But, certain teams, it's like Arizona comes in at number 3. They don't need a quarterback. Do they draft a quarterback? Or do they even bother to trade maybe downwards? Now, we have some top tier names coming into this draft. Michael Myers, Joey Porter, Big John Robinson. How far is he going to go down? We see Tyree Wilson. Remember who was the guy? Let's look at this. Will Anderson Jr. Is he going to go? So there's a lot of ways to play this NFL draft. And it's interesting because we look at the top of it, but then what ends up happening is at the bottom half of this draft, we'll pick up the pieces that didn't get drafted. Maybe teams hit the panic button and don't go for players they expect to go to or anything like that. So we really have our hands full in this year's draft, and we want to explain all about it. So coming up in hour number 2, we want to dive into the AFC North and exactly who they need, what each team needs. And then we'll dive into the mock draft, and then we'll talk about the WWE draft in comparison. So we have a lot to talk about here in hour number 2, and things are just getting warmed up and heated up on the program. teams that we're going to start. All right. All right, hour number 1 is complete on the program. We'll come back for hour number 2. Take you guys up until 3. Thank you guys for tuning into the throw-in as more continues here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, hour number 2 here on the program. I want to welcome everyone back to the throw-in here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I want to give a big shout out to our friends with Spreaker. Spreaker from iHeartRadio, where you can upload your podcast, get monetized, see analytics and reviews and all that stuff. Trying to get... I've been following the draft in the background for some time, and it's been a big thing all day long, which we're going to be talking about in this hour number 2. This is how hour number 2 is going to go down. We will be talking heavily about the NFL draft, what we can be looking at it, and I'm just let's get into some of the music, to be honest. Gonna have some music just playing in the background. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Let's set the mood for a little bit. All right, this is the 2023 upcoming draft. That will be tonight on ESPN, I believe also on NFL Network as well. And let's get into who's kind of coming in at where we stand at. Who's going to be picking first? Those are mock drafts. Let's get to this. So I'm just going to share the screen with you. All right, this is what we got going on. Matter of fact, I am going to go ahead and take myself off the screen so you guys can see it all. This is where the draft tracker is at. However you want to see it. And as you can see here, number 1 it has the Carolina Panthers kicking things off tonight. Now, Carolina Panthers did some due diligence, traded and wheeled and dealed to get the number 1 slot for a reason. And that reason most likely will be because of Bryce Young. So we're going to look into this as we scroll down the list. Houston, remember that fun, jokingly week number 18 of the season where we expect, where Houston accidentally won the game. After they were going to get the number 1 pick, they lose it and they give it to the Chicago Bears, who traded with Carolina. And it makes you wonder, all right, what's the deal now? Because they currently have David Mills. And yes, you have guys like Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and Hendon Hooker as top-tier quarterbacks, in my opinion, that would be going at some point in this year's draft. But if you'd played it smart, you would have got Bryce Young. And I think it would be utterly shocking not to see Bryce Young be selected with the Panthers for round 1. And I think this is a huge addition to the team, to the Panthers. Now, I don't know if Bryce Young is that one quarterback away from having success, from going back to the playoffs. But when you considered, if you are in the NFC South and you consider that the only person right now, the only team that you're really contending against is Derek Carr and the Saints, then I'm pretty open about it. So Carolina picks up a quarterback in the first round. Now, if by any means stretch, but we've seen some crazy things come out of it. If Carolina doesn't get Bryce Young, they need a cornerback, they need an edge. And in the rankings, according to CB ranking number 1 in edge is Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama. But unfortunately, I don't think he'll be picked number 1. So as we scroll down this NFL tracker, I want to point out some things to you guys. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals are ranked number 28th in this draft. And it shows signs of some issues. So let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. What are we looking at? We got the inner linebacker, safety, cornerback, and tight end. Let me get down to the Cincinnati Bengals number 20. I don't see them drafting up, okay? But there's a couple of things, and there's a couple of people on this list that I see that I like as options for the Bengals in this year's draft. Now, there's a couple things thinking about that. At the very beginning, all right, at the very beginning of this offseason, we came on here and we stated that the best option for the Bengals was to go back in and draft another offensive lineman so that you can just continue adding protection for Joe Burrow. Right? I think that was to the I believe that. But some things have changed over the past few weeks, exclusively losing some key players in your back end. And I think the game plan for me has now changed. You see on the board here, the Bengals need a safety. And you may be very correct. I think number 1 going all over is Brian Branch from Alabama as your safety, if he was going to be one of your guys you believed in. Why not? I mean, you could definitely, I think this year, getting defensive players is essential. And it's Brian Branch is a super athletic, long corner, long cornerback who feels like the prototypical defensive back for Brian Flores, for a system. Let me see here. Brian Branch's rating is 89.57, long-term starter. Pro comparisons is Daxton Hill. Accolades, he's the 2022 AP second team All-American. Also 2022 only SEC player with 90-plus tackles and 2 interceptions and 2 sacks. Brian Branch is a versatile, intelligent player who has been asked to do a lot for Nick Saban's team. He has fulfilled a leadership role with flying colors. Branch is effective as a spot pass rusher, playing downhill to fit the run. One of the nitpick to find many flaws in his game. But Branch could be a bit more mass to his flaws in his game, but Branch could add a bit more mass with his frame. He had just a 3.2% missed tackle rate in 2022. He's versatile, allows him to play safety, nickels, and boundaries in the pinch. High football IQ, fluid hips and transition across the field. Effective on blitz. Does a good job getting blocks. His 40-yard dash was a 4.58. Vertical was 34.5 inches. And broad jump was 10 feet, 5 inches. In 13 games last year, he had 90 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions. I like the guy of Brad Branch. And if you're going on my radar as one of you, if I had to go top 5 for the Bengals, I'm choosing a guy right now as Brad Branch out of Alabama to be a safety. We need a defensive protection. Let's look at some of the other safety providence that we can see coming out of this first round for the Bengals. I'm liking a guy like Julius Brents out of Kansas State. All right, he has great length. He gets up to speed quickly. And we need some help on the quarterback position, do we not? We could always use help. It's going to be key that we get into the rhythm of getting defensive help. But here's a little bit of things that a couple players that I think is a little far out of stretch. That would be a huge win if the Bengals can capture them. First of all, we got to look at the tight end, Michael Mayer. All right, 2022 AP first team All-American. 2021 to 2022 led all FBS tight ends in receptions, 180 in receiving yards of receptions. Now, Michael Mayer, he's one of those great guys. He's consistency. He's a consistent producer dating back to freshman season. He's a great size and makes consistent catches. He's able to go as a tight end. He's also built like an extra lineman, to be honest. And, he's running that 40-yard dash in 4.7. He has a vertical high of 32.5, and the jump is nearly 10 feet. All right, 12 games, he received 67 catches, 809 yards, averaging about 12 yards a carry with 9 touchdowns on the board. I think Michael Mayer would be a great addition to the tight end range, especially after the tight ends we've gotten rid of this offseason. Another good personnel would be Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. Okay, he's one of the running backs. And the thing I have to say with the running backs is, in all honesty, we're possibly looking at about Joe Mixon departing from the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that is just fair to say. But when we look at I think there's 2 running backs right now open to question. Benjamin Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. And if the one of those guys are available, and I know that we're kind of more attractive towards the defensive game, but if one of those guys are available at pick number 28, would it be foolish enough not to consider them? My point is, and my thing is for the Cincinnati Bengals here, when we're talking about draft picks, all right, is that I got 6 guys: Joey Porter Jr., Joe Tipman, Jahmyr Gibbs, Michael Myers, Anton Harrison, Brian Branch, Julius Bentz, and I got 4 guys being announced as defensive players. Here's, I think, what we need to focus on this year. We need to focus on defense in the draft. I think it would be foolish enough that with the amount of defensive players that left the Bengals this offseason, we're talking about Von Bell being one of them, that we try to add a couple of decent defensive players to help out the team. But the problem that I also run into is that with the contract that Jalen Hurts got, with Aaron Rodgers going over to Green Bay and to New York and playing for the Jets and potentially making over $100 million, with, I think one of the questions that we need, one of the answers we need to figure out and solve is that we need to give ourselves or give Joe Burrow that security blanket, giving him the chance, hey, I want you in Cincinnati for the next 3 to 5 years. This is what we're going to do for you to lock up that deal. And I think that is important because we want Joe Burrow for 5-6 years, right? I think the Bengals want to lock him up, and I'm pretty sure that Joe Burrow wants to stay in Cincinnati. The money has to be right. And if the money is not right, then we run into the situation of the possibility of Joe Burrow leaving in a couple of years to a different organization that's willing to pay him. Okay, I'm not worried about the running back situation, although if you could pick up a Bijan Robinson or a Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round, because running backs are replaceable. We're seeing that with Ezekiel Elliott. We're seeing that with the contract tag on Saquon Barkley. And Joe Mixon, most likely, like I said, I can't see the Bengals keeping him at least for after another year. He may play this year if all goes well, but he's not going to be a long-term quarterback for the Bengals. They already signed him to a 4-year contract. He's at the back end of that, so it would be unideal to see him advance. And we already have our quarterback. I don't think we need receivers. That's just my take of the, tell the take. But I think that this year's focus is going to be heavily on the defense. I said offensive line. I think defense is going to be additional. If you pick up a decent, now if Joey Porter goes, if Julius Bentz goes, if even Brian Branch goes, but you get Michael Mayer as a tight end, I definitely play the Michael Mayer game as well. All right, we got a lot more to talk about. I want to give you in my next segment my top 10, the first 10 picks of this NFL draft. We're just about 6 hours away. 6 hours and 40 minutes away. Don't go nowhere. You guys are listening to The Throne here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, welcome on back here to the program, talking about the NFL draft and everything that is taking place. Take you guys up until 3 o'clock on this fine Thursday. Expected to rain, but apparently it's not going to be coming in until later on this afternoon. All right, taking a look at the draft tracker here at where the Bengals were sitting at. And so, listen, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 top players for the Bearcats that's entered into this draft. Aquan Bush, defensive back, Ivan Pace Jr., linebacker, Tyler Boyd. Tyler Scott, wide receiver, and Josh Wild, tight end. Wouldn't it be nice if we could pick up an Aquan Bush or an Ivan Pace Jr. in this year's draft, bring a Cincinnati Bearcat over here to the Bengals side, to the jungle, right? Well, we have to also pay attention and worry about our own AFC division here. Now, I've explained to you quite a bit who I like for Cincinnati, who's picked number 28, but both Pittsburgh and Baltimore come before the Bengals pick at number 28. Houston will get number 12, the original spot for the Browns. So they're going to get a chance to pick again as the Browns opt out and traded to get out of. Well, this was part of the Deshaun Watson deal with Cleveland. So I think there's a little bit of a break. And tonight is only round 1. That's what we got to remember. And then the Saints also dealt through with Miami and Denver, from San Francisco through Miami and Denver, whatever they'll be picking later. Anyways, so Pittsburgh comes in at number 17, and they're looking for guys like offensive tackle, cornerback, wide receivers, and linebackers. And I think this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's about adding contribution to what Kenny Pickett has to offer, as I believe Kenny Pickett's going to get the full go-around reins in this season. So this is quite a big year for Kenny Pickett. And it would be reminiscent if the Steelers can't pick up a receiver or an offensive tackle to help out. And 2 guys pop to mind for Pittsburgh. You got Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State, and then you also got Darrell Wright from Tennessee. Now, if Pittsburgh is comfortable enough and is confident enough, and Mike Tomlin's confident enough that he's good with the guys that they have now, the Steelers could always get Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback from Penn State. And what was interesting, I was going through the list between Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cincinnati in the first round. Joey Porter Jr. is one of the top guys that's getting looked at. And I was looking at Joey Porter, 2022's first team All Big Ten, son of 4-time Pro Bowler linebacker Joey Porter. The son of a former Steelers linebacker, Joey Porter is a competitive man coverage cornerback with great length. Despite his limited ball production, Porter does a good job of staying in phase up the boundaries and is physical at the catch point. Very competitive. And it instantly reminds me of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Great length to play on the boundary. Does a good job staying in phase up the boundary, competitive at the catch point. Weakness, just 1 interception in 4 seasons. Tracking in space needs to improve. Physical with wide receivers downfield. So when I was looking at this draft, and I'm like, if you don't get an offense, I think the offensive line is warranted. But could you not see maybe a Tennessee at number 11, a trade with Pittsburgh, or even with Atlanta Falcons at number 8 to pick up a Joey Porter? Because I'm sure that Pittsburgh and definitely I'm sure with Mike Tomlin, they can do something with him. I don't think that we've seen the best yet from Joey Porter, and I think if he gets a chance to play on the same team that his father played on, I think it will spark a little bit of motivation, and you'll see a little better performance. Now, he may not be a developed starter for each and every game. That's doubtful, but I would love to see him be on the same team, and I think that's what the Steelers would have to trade up to. We talked to Michael Mayer with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I feel like that's a long shot because I feel like if you're going to get Michael Myers, either Green Bay Packers, who come in at number 13, or the New York Jets that come in at number 15 could get Michael Myers, the tight end. And he's a big tight end. I think he's going to most likely be the first tight end to go to one of these teams in the middle rounds. That's just my take, my opinion. Now we go down here the list because we saw Pittsburgh at 17. We also see Baltimore at number 22. they're needing wide receivers, offensive linemen, cornerback, linebackers. And the first name that comes to mind is picking up Ben John Robinson, because you see, Baltimore is very similar to what the Cincinnati Bengals need. See, at least I had this hunch that the Cincinnati Bengals need to protect Joe Burrow and need to pick up a couple of draft players this weekend, to take back to Joe Burrow and say, hey, look, we're not stacked up. We've lost some players, but this is who we have. That if when you go out there offensively, we have a tight end for you. We have 2 to 3 good receivers. And with our offensive line healthy, we can also help protect you. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the controversy with the future of Joe Mixon, I think, is yet to be determined. Whether he stays for another year or whether the Bengals just part ways with him now is still yet to be determined. If the Bengals could pick up a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Ben John Robinson that can help Joe Burrow in the run establishment, because one thing that I felt the Bengals didn't do quite well last season was establish the run game, then that would be also influencing. But then if you also look at Joe Burrow, he needs to ensure, because I really believe the Bengals took a huge hit in the defensive, secondary and third area of defense of the Cincinnati defense. If you're the Bengals, do you also say, all right, we got what we got. We may be able to pick up a free agent or two, but we wanted to make sure that our defense are just as good as the offense, so that when you go put up 24 to 32 runs, we're gonna, you feel comfortable that our defense could put a stop to them. See, the Ravens are very similar, I think, in that way. And as much as we, as the Bengal Nation, trying to convince Joe in this sense to, hey, let's get that, the extension done deal for the next 3 to 5 years, and this is how we're going to convince you doing it. The Ravens still need to make it appealing to Lamar Jackson that, all right, you picked up Odell Beckham Jr., now you get to go pick up a Ben John Robinson. Maybe that's going to hopefully spark some sort of motivation for one to play this season with the Ravens, and for two, a possible future in, hey, we're looking to contend. Lamar, join our team, and maybe you can't go out of pocket and be this, luxurious guy that can run anymore, but we're going to put people around you that can help you out. I look at this list as they're looking at it looks like they need more tight ends. Dalton Kincaid, tight end from Utah. They need more offensive players. Quentin Johnson, one of the top receivers, expected to be going in this draft. But one guy that I was shocked, surprised to see in the mock drafts from the CBS reporters was quarterback Anthony Richardson from Florida. The problem that I see with him, he has a consistency of being inconsistent. And if the Ravens, whether it's Hidden Hooker, whether it's Hidden Hooker, or whether it's one of these quarterbacks down below, like a Jake Heener or a Clayton Tune or a Jaron Hall from BYU, if the Ravens decide that they're going to go with a quarterback, especially in the early rounds, I'll tell you this, especially in the early rounds, then I think this is going to say, all right, I think this is a clear message from Baltimore saying that, all right, you know what? Listen, if we haven't struck a deal now, the chances of us getting a deal done is just probably in the rear mirror. Not saying that we're not open to, getting a deal done in the future, but we're prepared to take the steps of moving forward in the event that you're not capable of wanting to resign for us. And you know what? If it is what it is. So that's one thing that really sparked my attention. Like I mentioned in the last segment, that Joey Porter Jr. was one of those guys that was on the list for all three teams. And like I said, Cleveland's out of the bracket here as we look in the first round. With the deal earlier between the Jets and sending and collecting Aaron Rodgers from the Packers, they swap in the draft. So Aaron Rodgers moved the Jets to number 15 in the first round, as the Green Bay Packers get number 13. But we look at the top 10 here with Carolina, Houston, followed by Arizona, Indianapolis, Seattle, Detroit, Vegas, Atlanta, Chicago, and then Philadelphia. And so I was looking at this, and the first question that you ask yourself is, what kind of quarterback, where can you see, what team needs a quarterback in the top 10? Like I mentioned, this isn't a huge draft class for quarterbacks. I mean, I believe you have 18 quarterbacks, but the guys that we're really talking about is in the top 5, and that's anyone that will be Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and Hendon Hooker. And anyone else beyond that, which would be Jake Keener and all the way down, is ranked beyond the top 100 prospects. So to see a quarterback other than these 5 go in the first round, I think would be very shocking, suppressing. Now, I feel like they have Anthony Richardson up higher than Will Levis, and maybe that's because he's entering the draft as a sophomore, coming out of Florida. But in my prediction, I have 3 quarterbacks going in the top 10 of this year's draft. You look at the teams that need quarterbacks. Well, Chicago traded down, put Carolina up front, and they took the number 9 slot. Now, what does that tell me? That tells me that they're going to stick with Justin Fields, and I like that. I think it's a great idea. You see, Philadelphia Eagles just got done signing Jalen Hurts, so they don't need a quarterback out of arm stretch. They just need safeties, wide receivers, and when I get down to it, I'll let you know who I think they'll pick at number 10. Atlanta will definitely need a quarterback, or could use a quarterback. Will they get a quarterback? I don't know. And I think, as soon as Bryce Young goes, and maybe CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and then Anthony Richards and Hendon Hooker is going to be is going to be up for grabs, and it's going to be like, all right, well, do we really need him, or can we go without him? Las Vegas, after signing Garoppolo, I think they got Brian Hoyer as well. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Raiders, if they see Levis on the market and maybe, influencing to pick up Levis, but, they may stick with Garoppolo and Hoyer, which I don't think is going to give them a better stretch. I just wouldn't put 3 quarterbacks right now, because then you would have to cut one, and I wouldn't want to cut. I would have cut Brian Hoyer off the bat. I just wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't know. So that's kind of sticky. Seattle and Detroit, they got quarterbacks. Jared Goff, they're pretty adamant about sticking with them, especially how close they came to the postseason last year. Seattle Seahawks, Geno Smith, re-signing him for a contract extension. Indianapolis Colts will definitely a top team that's looking to get a quarterback on their radar, but will they do it? We'll see. Arizona Cardinals is another one that has Kyler Murray. They're looking to build around him again. Houston Texans is that team that we just kind of scratch our heads at and say, all right, they do need that quarterback, and it should be a no-brainer. But with Carolina needing Bryce Young and getting the number 1 pick, it seems like Bryce Young's off the table, who I thought would have made a really good, perfect pick for the Houston Texans. And I really believed that Bryce Young could have been one of those quarterbacks for the Texans that could start leading them down to the path to success. So we're going to take our last break of the program. Coming up next, I will share with you the top 10 in my mock draft prediction for the top 10 in the first round. And I guess tonight we'll see if any of them are correct. So stick around. That's all coming to you next. You guys are listening to The Throw One here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty. Welcome on back here with The Throw-In. Be sure to tune us in tomorrow on Friday as we wrap up the week of sports, getting you guys ready for the WWE Draft, wrapping up, reviewing the round one of the NFL Draft, getting you guys prepared for the WWE Draft and SmackDown. And then we'll get you guys ready for the weekend in local sports, Cincinnati Cyclones, the Bearcats, FC Cincinnati. And then we'll also go ahead and get you guys ready for the Cincinnati Reds as they look to take on the Oakland Athletics on the road. So a busy day tomorrow as we wrap up the week. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to The Throw-In. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And excuse me 1 second. We'll do that. Trying to find my music. I accidentally played the music that ends our show coming back from break. So, all right. So NFL Draft is tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there's a lot of historical stuff coming out of it. And, you know, to be honest, this is my first time actually getting deep into it, getting intrigued. I remember around this time last year, doing the program where was getting tired, getting drained, and took some time off, but excited to be back at it, and we're still pushing forward. There's no view of stopping anytime soon, which is good for me. And there's still plenty of content looking ahead of us. But when we talk about this upcoming draft here in just a couple hours, we mentioned the top 10. And I want to kind of give you my top 10 predictions. Like I said, we'll see what the Bengals do. And I think when we look at this, we have to see what the Ravens and the Steelers do as well. And I know I'll have my clipboard and pencil ready as soon as it comes down. And I'll take notes and jots information. I'll have my computer with me as well. Tonight we'll take the girls, take the oldest to softball practice before it rains. It's supposed to be for only an hour or so. But I'm intrigued to see where some of these quarterbacks go, because 3 quarterbacks are on my top list, and that's Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Will Levis. And so it's going to be interesting to see where these guys go, to be honest. What's interesting that I find that stands out is that a guy like there's a lot of guys like Will Anderson, who's ranked number 1 from CBS Sports. Well, he's not on my top 10 list. It's not because he's not a good edge, but I have Tyree Wilson on my top 10 that a team in the top 10 is going to be picking. Bryce Young's there, Jalen Carter, I see. Then we have CJ Stroud. I have, and I'll share it with you in a moment. Ben John Robinson. Think he's going to go in the middle or low round, and that's just because the rating for running backs just isn't that high. It's unfortunate. Peter Sharinsky is not there. Christian Gonzalez, yes, is in the top. Tyree Wilson's in my top. Okay, so I'm just looking for the top 10. Davon Witherspoon is there. Dante Banks, nope. So, I mean, you look at it, and then Anthony Richardson comes in at number 11. So I think this is going to be a very, very interesting top first round pick. Because a guy like even Cam Smith is not on the list who could be a good quarterback for or cornerback for one of these teams. So let me go ahead and give you my top 10 predictions for the mock draft. It's the mock draft top 10. So coming in at the number 10, the Philadelphia Eagles will hold on to that 10 spot, and they will have Nolan Smith, the edge out of Georgia. I like Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith, listen, elite change of direction, athleticism, twitchiness, and quickness despite lack of size. Shows ability to hold ground and offensive tackles can set edge versus the run. Yeah, he's undersized, but he's he's a 4.39 in a 40-yard, 41.5 inches in a vertical. Board jump is 10 feet, 8 inches. In 2022 for out of Georgia, Nolan played 8 games, 18 tackles, 3 sacks, no interceptions. But I'm liking Nolan. I mean, when you got the Eagles, who's already has, they're just kind of that 1 inch away. And they already signed Jalen Hurts to that long-term deal. So it's like, why do we need to keep him in the mix? So he comes in at my number 10. Now, coming in at number 9 for me, Houston will actually trade up to number 9. Originally, they are now at number 12. I think Chicago would trade down again to get Houston at number 9. And the reason why Houston will come in at number 9, they will get Will Levis. And this was kind of the difficult one I could see happening. Maybe he would have done it with Atlanta, but I see maybe Chicago coming out of there again. It would be very shocking to me if in the first round we don't see Houston pick up a quarterback. And so that's why I have Houston coming in at number 9 with Will Levis as a quarterback out of Kentucky. For me, I like Will Levis. I don't know if he's a good fit in Houston, but I don't see Houston going anywhere. And I don't see any other quarterback. Maybe Anthony Richardson, but not really. All right, number 8, I have Atlanta, and I have wide receivers from Ohio State, Jackson Smith-Njigba, coming in and getting drafted by the Falcons at number 8. Njigba here played in 3 games last season. I know due to an injury. He also had 5 receptions, 43 yards, no touchdowns though. But he has he glides around the field. Ball tracking down the field is elite. I mean, he's corner next, level fielder that we like, especially as a wide receiver. And I think Atlanta needs one to help themselves out. Coming in at number 7, I have the Vegas Raiders. Now, I don't think they're going with the quarterback. I think they're actually going with I don't think they'll go with the cornerback out of Oregon. And that's going to be Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez, he played in 12 games last year for Oregon, excuse me. He has great length. Out of those 12 games, 50 tackles, 4 interceptions. I like the depth analysis. He was a second team All Pac-12 AP. 4 interceptions, third most in the Pac-12. Coming in at number 6 for me is the Detroit Lions. Now, they don't need a quarterback, definitely in this one. They got Davin Witherspoon, cornerback from Illinois. And Davin, just right here, 11 games, 41 tackles, 3 interceptions. He needs to pack more weight on his 6-foot frame. Average top end of receiving speed. He's an elite competitor, though. He has a high football IQ, will jam and stab to routes for receiving. I think he make a huge impact with the Detroit Lions. And you think about a team who is just that 1 inch closer. Coming in at number 5 for me is the Seattle Seahawks. They already locked up Geno Smith. I think the offense is pretty solid. A big contribution out there for the defense would be the defensive lineman coming out of Georgia, Jalen Carter. And I really like Jalen Carter. I think he's one of my favorites coming into this draft on the defensive end. He uses his strength to the 11 to gain ground. Great quickness and attack gaps. 12 games, 32 tackles, 3 sacks, and 0 interceptions. He was a 2022 unanimous All-American, 2-time CFP National Championship, 2021 and 2022. I think it'll be a great advantage for the Seattle Seahawks. Coming in at number 4, we'll have Arizona be picking. I have a mock draft of Will Anderson Jr. from the Alabama, the edge, making his way. I actually thought I didn't have Will Anderson, so I'm made a mistake. I apologize there, but he ranked number 1. Someone has to pick them, and for Arizona, you don't need offense. I think you need defense, especially without J.J. Watt. So a good addition to him. Coming in at number 3 for me is Indianapolis Colts. They'll be picking C.J. Stroud, the quarterback out of Ohio State. I really like C.J. Stroud. I think this will give the Colts a fresh opportunity. I think he's he's comparisons as a Geno Smith, and I think he works perfect in Indianapolis. With Ohio State last year, 13 games, he passed for over 3,688 yards with the 66% completion, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I think you have Trevor Lawrence. This AFC South. I'll say this about the AFC South. This AFC South is going to be a young group of talent. You're not going to have a lot of veterans in there. No Matt Ryan. Trevor Lawrence is going to start it. CJ Stroud comes in. Hopefully Houston can find their, leverage. I really originally thought that maybe Houston will pick up CJ Stroud and then Will Levis will go to Indianapolis, and that could still potentially happen. But coming in at number 2, I see Tyree Wilson, going the edge from Texas Tech, going to Houston in the second pick of the draft. 10 games, 61 tackles, 7 sacks, no interceptions. He's tall, sleek frame. I think anyone who picks up a Will Anderson or a Tyree Wilson are not going to be disappointed. And then coming in at number 1, I think, overall, is going to be Bryce Young, the quarterback out of Alabama. And I think this is it's given, it's been stated, and boy, I think the Panthers have kind of gotten a chance to steal one. Just imagine if Houston would have lost that game in week 18. They would have had the number 1 pick, and we probably would have been talking about the guarantee of Houston taking Bryce Young and how much of an impact that can do and elevate the Texans out of a division that is now resetting itself. My thing is, and the reason why I don't have Houston picking a quarterback in the first very pick they have in this draft is because Houston is still trying to figure out what type of football they want to play. And that's the problem. If they know, all right, this is the style of football, they can compare it and match it up to their team, to their respected quarterbacks and say, all right, he fits the bill or he fits the bill. Well, I don't think that they even know themselves what they want or what type of football they want. And that's why it would hurt them so badly, is because of that. So I guess we're going to, and this is why I just don't have CJ Stroud, Now, if they had the number 1 pick and they were able to get Bryce Young, I think that would be a huge advantage. And I think they would have a better idea. All right, we're just going to base around off of him. But you know what? They don't. And over and over again will come tomorrow. There is a very good chance in here in the next couple hours that we don't see Carolina pick Bryce Young. But I guess we'll have to see. NFL draft tonight. Check it out at ESPN. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up a week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And don't miss a single episode of The Throw-In. Want to thank everyone for tuning in. And thank you for making this your sports talk show. Until tomorrow, you guys take care and have a great rest of your day.